Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Pathways session for February. My name is Rachael. I'm the District 84 Pathways Chair. And this evening, we are talking specifically about pathways for Basecamp managers. That's the projected focus. However, there are some folks on the call this evening who are not Basecamp managers. And if we want to talk about something else, I am happy to switch gears for whatever it is that your needs are this evening. So just a quick show of hands, or you can use your emoji buttons that are down at the bottom of the screen, or use the chat. How many of you are Basecamp managers? All right, we got at least two. Anybody else? So Basecamp manager is you are president, vice president of education, or secretary. All right, looks like the minority of the folks this evening are Basecamp managers. Oh, actually, I'm getting a yes from Sam and from Edward as well. Hi, Martha. Thanks for joining us this evening. Where are you dialing in from? You're on mute.
I'm in Gainesville. I'm from Gainesville Toastmasters.
Great. So you're here with Edward.
I'm perhaps, I have been a member in absentia during the pandemic. Okay. So I don't think I know who Edward is, but.
Okay, understood. We actually have something special planned for the Gainesville Club next Thursday. We're having one of our friends come in person to do a live demo of Pathways. So you're getting a head start this evening. So
okay, great.
Yeah. Are you a Basecamp manager?
No.
You're not. Okay. So you are a member, but not a Basecamp manager.
I am a member who has not really been an active member since the change to the whole Pathways system. So I'm hoping to get a little bit more of an orientation to Pathways and a more friendly attitude towards it.
Okay, well, let's start at the beginning then, for those of you who are not Basecamp managers. Now, we converted our system over to a digital platform in 2018, but we didn't actually sunset the manuals and all those books that we used to have until just this past June. So June of 2021. So the new system is called Pathways. And when you log into Pathways, it is its own digital playground, and it's called Basecamp. So hopefully that answers that question. So the homepage of Pathways is called Basecamp. So there's lots of things that we're going to talk about with Basecamp. If you are a member, which everyone here is, there are 11 paths to choose from. And depending on what your goal is, personal goal, a professional goal, maybe your Toastmasters goal, or maybe there's an intersection of all of those things together, there is a path with your name on it, with those 11 to choose from. If you are not certain which path to choose, you can read some of the literature on Toastmasters.org and kind of look through what are the goals of this specific path and what are some of the details about it. You can speak with your vice president of education. They should be fairly versed in what some of those paths are about. You can always reach out to me as well, and I'll make sure I put my contact information into the chat this evening so you can reach out. And there's also an online assessment in Toastmasters.org as well. So they'll ask you about 7 or 8 questions, and then they'll make some recommendations of which paths you might want to consider. One of the paths is called Presentation Mastery, and it is really all about how to deliver the most effective speeches. It doesn't matter how you answer those questions in the online assessment. They'll propose 3, and one of those 3 will always be presentation mastery. It's kind of like the flagship of Pathways. So everybody is offered that as an option. There's innovative planning if you want to think more about project management and planning and getting a team together to accomplish a specific goal, time management. Maybe it's something more about motivational strategies. That path is a little bit more about learning about my own self. What motivates me? Am I an intrinsic motivated person or perhaps extrinsic? And then learning how to spot the different motivation types of other people too. And how do I motivate my team and my group and my club to go forward and achieve that goal? So whatever your personal goal, professional goal, or your Toastmasters goal, there's probably a path out there. And we can talk a little bit more about that. So the Basecamp managers, these are the president, the vice president, and the secretary. Those are the 3 that have access to the manager side of the house. There's some back end reporting in there that we'll talk about a little bit this evening. You can look at every member's progress. Have they picked a path? Are they even on the board yet? Have they worked through any of those projects? Have they accomplished any of those goals yet? There's a variety of things to actually look for as a Basecamp manager. I'm going to stop right there. Comments, questions, concerns?
Rachel, you said vice president was vice president of education.
Of education, correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's with me? Everybody with me so far? A couple more things about Pathways before we talk specifically about the Basecamp manager side of the house. And we can talk about Pathways for members and Pathways for Basecamp managers and kind of split our time this evening since we have almost an equal amount of both on the call this evening. Many of the projects in Pathways are the same as what you saw in the manuals. So if you have been a Toastmaster since before 2018 and you had those manuals, then you're familiar with some of those projects. So projects about body language, that has not gone away. That is in Pathways. Things about being a professional speaker and preparing to be a professional speaker, that's in there as well. Connecting with your audience, using vocal variety. A lot of those things that we found in the manuals are just on the digital platform. They may look different, but the content and the essence of the project is the same. So hopefully that can quell some of the fears that you may be thinking about with hesitation of getting into this whole Pathways world, because a lot of it is the same. The difference is the online platform has a lot of different interactions. So you're like clicking on a word and then it reveals a bunch of content. So it's a little bit more interactive. It also has videos. There are some things in the manuals that you could read about, but there were never any videos. So it's one thing I love about Pathways is you can see somebody deliver an icebreaker speech. You can see an effective evaluation and you get that demo of how is it done? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What should it feel like? So there's some fantastic content in there. How many of you work for a company that you have to do compliance training or you have to do online learning or something like that? Anybody work for a company where you have to do compliance training? Yeah, a couple of you do. So without further ado, Maria, I see your question and we are going to tackle that this evening. So hold on because we are going to get there. All right. Now the part about Toastmasters International has not changed. So we're still going to toastmasters.org and logging in. Somebody tell me, how do you know that you're logged in?
You see your name up there that says welcome, Rachel.
Yep. If your name is Rachel, then you'll see Rachel. If your name is something else, you'll see something else. But sure enough, Tina, thank you for that. You're going to see right here up at the top a welcome message and your name, however you registered with Toastmasters International. So that's how you know you're actually in Pathways. If you click on your own name, it's going to take you to your own personal profile. This has a ton of information in here. If you've been in Toastmasters for any length of time, you've probably been an officer, you've probably earned an education award. It's all in here. It actually gives you your whole history of all of those things. So it can tell you which clubs you ever belonged to, how many officer roles you've held, and so on. So one of the things that we are going to talk about briefly for new members, if you're not sure which path to choose, there is this maroon box kind of in the middle, this one right here, kind of towards the top, where it says choose a new path. If you just joined Toastmasters, part of your dues includes a path. So if you have been a Toastmaster for a while and you need to buy a new path, then here it is. There was an incentive when we first converted over to Pathways that you get a path. If you're an existing member, you get a path, you don't pay that $20. So I think that's an important distinction as well. Now, you remember how we talked about that assessment, like how do I know which path to choose? That's in this maroon box too. So you can click on that white bar that says choose a path, and it's going to take you to a couple different places. You can look at the paths yourself and pick one, or you can take that online assessment and choose the path that they recommend to you. They're going to recommend 3, and you can pick one of the 3. So let's actually get into Basecamp. So one of the questions that I get frequently from members is, how do I even get around this system? So I'm going to come over to this blue box over here on the top far left, and I am going to just click on go. It's going to take me to Basecamp. Basecamp is a complete separate website from Toastmasters.org. So you need to know that. So you can't necessarily go back. But as soon as you come into Basecamp, notice here at the top where it says welcome to Basecamp, and then it'll say your name. There is a link to go back to Toastmasters.org in the page that we were just looking at, your personal profile. So if you ever want to go back to that, it's right here. Lots of stuff on this page. I'm going to scroll down towards the bottom. This is how you access your path so you can start working through some of those projects. So I have 2 paths in here. I chose the engaging humor path, and I also have the visionary communication path. I have 2. I know some folks that have finished all 11, and I know some folks that they picked a path in 2018 and they're still working through the path. So similar to the manuals, it's a choose your own adventure, and you decide how fast or slow you go. So once I see my path, it's gonna have a little gray highlight over it. As I'm hovering over it, there's a little link that says open curriculum. Once I click on open curriculum, this is where all the magic happens. This is where all the projects are. I'm going to pause there. I know some folks are taking notes and you want to get down everything. Are you with me so far? Okay. And stop me anytime to ask questions. So I'm going to click on that open curriculum. So it's going to give me a new page. So Maria, your question was specifically about these projects and completing a project. So let's talk about starting a project, getting all the way through to completing it. So there's some really important vocabulary that I want to talk about first, just so we're all on the same page. The first is path. Path is the entire program. A path has approximately 20 speeches. So if we're thinking about the old manuals, it's 3, 4 manuals. Some of those advanced manuals only had 5. Our competent communicator had 10. So you can think about it about 3 or 4 different manuals. It's going to take you from the basics all the way up to the advanced level. It's all encased in one path. So path is the first word that I want to throw out there just so we're on the same page. The second word I want to put out there is level. There are 5 levels in every single path. Level 1 is all about the basics of speech giving. Level 2 is all about getting to know your own self. So depending on which path you've chosen, it might be about your communication style, identifying your leadership style, identifying your particular sense of humor. Could be any of those things. It's really about getting to know myself. And then what do I do about that? It also features Toastmasters mentoring as a program and what to expect from your mentor if you have one, and what to expect as a protege if I am the one being mentored. And then it also gives you an idea of, for experienced Toastmasters, what should I be doing as a mentor to help these mentees and proteges? So level is the next word I wanted to talk about. So we talked about path is the overall curriculum, and level is the individual sections that will help determine where you are in terms of degree of difficulty. Inside each level is a project. So sometimes we're going to use the word speech and sometimes we're going to use the word project. And the reason that they're not really interchangeable in pathways is as you progress to level 4 and 5, the more advanced levels of the path, you're going to find that this is more like a high performance leadership project. So I'm going to give a speech that's about an introduction of what my proposed plan is about. I'm going to assemble a team and actually carry out some sort of project as a team. And I'll probably wrap it up with another speech as a conclusion to let people know, how did the project go? What was the conclusion? What were the end results? So most projects are going to have one speech, but there are several projects that have a couple different speeches in it. Is everybody with me so far? Everyone feeling good about it? So we've got the path, which is the overall curriculum. We have the level, which determines the degree of difficulty that you're currently in. And within that level, we have projects. How many of you purchased a path after October of this past year of 2021? Anybody get a path after that? Koki did. Anybody else? Everyone got your paths before then? Is that what I'm understanding? How many of you don't have a path yet?
So we only have Rachel, we only have one path is free. If we have a second path, that means we must have to pay.
Correct.
To get the second path.
That's right. That is correct. Yep, when you first join Toastmasters, part of your initial dues covers one path. And as you're progressing along in your Toastmasters journey, if you want to pick up a second path, then it is $20 for that path. All right. For those of you who don't have a path yet, or you purchased one after October, what you're looking at in my level 1 is going to be different than what you see in your level 1. There were a few changes recently to the curriculum. Nothing earth-shattering, but just a couple changes. So let's talk about these projects. As you're looking at my screen, how many projects do you see? You can hold up your fingers, or you can hold up, you can put it in the chat. How many do you see? Okay, I see 3, I see 4. We got numbers all over the place. Koki Kubo is our resident accountant. Koki, how many are there? 3. He said 3. So the reason that there are 3 is you can see these 3. I'm going to try and highlight here. These 3 are projects that you are going to go through. At the end of every single level, there is a project that really is me signing off saying that I have completed this whole level. And now my Basecamp manager, my VPE, my president, my secretary, they're going to get a message saying, you've got a member that just did a great job completing this level. We get awarded based on our level completion. In the old system, if you came over from the old system, we got rewarded on how many manuals did we complete? How many competent communicator manuals did we complete? How many competent leader manuals did we complete? In the new system, we're looking at a level. We want 4 different level 1s to be completed for us to reach our goals for the year for the club. Same concept, different metric. So every time we come in here and we look at the project, all of my blue buttons say launch, and it's because I've already completed this. But let me show you one where I haven't actually started that project yet. So this one down here, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. What does my blue button say?
Activate.
Activate. Activate means you haven't touched it yet. And you'll notice down here also in the status, it says not activated. For my other ones, if my status is in progress, what does my blue button say?
Launch.
Launch. Correct. So that's really what you're going to be seeing in all of these levels. Once you click on launch, it is going to open up an e-learning module. So let's see how that happens. Let's click it. On my system, it opens it in a second tab. Some of your systems may be in the same tab. It may depend on the browser settings. It may depend on what type of device you're on as well. I do not recommend working on your phone. Tablets, desktops, laptops work really well. But on your phone, not so much. It's not great. If you're going to do it on your phone, instead of having it like this way, you're actually going to have to like flip it like to the side. And even then the navigation isn't super great. So when you click on the launch button, this comes over to the navigation. It gives you kind of an overview of how do I work this thing? You're going to see these gray arrows that turn to blue when I hover over them. And that's going to advance me to the next slide. If you want to skip around, you can always grab this little triangle at the bottom and pick a different section. You know, a lot of people do this just to get certain worksheets and tools in here to download. So as you're working through this, this content is virtually the same as what you saw in the manuals. They just brought it over to something that looks a little bit different. It's a little bit more engaging. You also have the opportunity to click around. If you actually want a manual style, there is a link in here that says project checklist. And I'll show you a couple different manual styles in here. So this one gives you your entire project, all of the things that you should be doing to accomplish this particular icebreaker project. It's always going to give you a pre-test. You can assess yourself. And then at the end, and this goes back to Maria's question, you must complete the post-test at the end of the module to get credit for the module. So doing the pre-test and the post-test in the module will ultimately give you credit for completing this project. Nobody sees these scores. You're seeing my scores because I'm allowing you to see them. These are for you as a self-assessment. This is not a test like in school. It's not a pass-fail or anything like that. You're not going to get called to the principal's office, nothing like that. No detention even. It's a nice way for you to look at, how did I feel before I got into this project? Once I went through the project and delivered my speech and got my feedback, how do I feel about the project now? Have I improved? Am I feeling more confident? There's lots more text, lots of stuff in here for you to read. Here's a video. Here's something that we didn't get in the manuals, if you were around for those manuals, is we get all kinds of videos in here. And they're great opportunities to really see an actual demonstration of what these projects are about. So it actually provides a little bit more guidance to us as Toastmasters compared to sitting in a meeting and that person's icebreaker was either great, mediocre, terrible, who knows? But the point is, this gives you a little bit more of an idea of what it should look like. There are all kinds of worksheets in all of these modules. I highly recommend that you spend some time looking at these worksheets. This one, for example, is an outline. So if you're new to speaking, this is a great way to just start thinking about some of your content, some of the ideas, and then really working into what makes sense, what doesn't make sense for this, and really getting that mind map organization. I recommend to my club that they use the speech outline for the first several speeches, not just the icebreaker. Great resource. There's some more content. You'll see on occasion that there are places where you can move the slides and you just get some more instruction, some more details, some more content, and a greater idea of what this is all about. So there's lots of interaction in here. Same thing here. As you click on all of those buttons, it's going to reveal more information for you. I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to come over here to complete your assignment. This has a little bit of an outline that tells you, like, what do you do next? So what do we do next? Now, I mentioned earlier that if you want a manual style, you can get it here. There's this link that says print my project. I know some people who will download this and just put it on their tablet, and as they're waiting in the doctor's office, they're scrolling through, reading all of the stuff that was the exact same stuff in this module. Some people I know actually print these out. The one thing that you are going to miss in these printouts is the videos. That's going to be really important. I love the videos. I get more out of the videos than I do reading some of this content, truthfully. So this is for you. Another thing you need to pay attention to is on this page, there's always a slide in here that says your evaluation. this is the link to your evaluation that you're going to give to your speech evaluator. It's a fillable PDF. So if you're a techie type that you like to actually type right in here and fill in all of your details, you're welcome to do that. If you are the type of club that meets in person and you want to print it off and like hand it to somebody, you can do that as well. So here's your project, the evaluation form. We used to have speech objectives in the manuals. Now we have purpose statements. It's ultimately the same function. So what did I mention before that you have to do in order to get credit for this module? Anybody remember?
Post evaluation.
Thank you, Mario. You're on it. So that's going to be like close to the last slide. It's the second to the last slide, actually. So voila, I've already completed this. So you're seeing my before and my after scores, but it's going to take you through a similar slide from what we saw before, where it said assess your skills before. This one is called assess your skills after. So you have to put in your after scores in order to get credit for completing this project. Once you've done that, it's going to show you the side-by-side comparison. Again, this is just for you to determine for your own self, have I made some progress in this area? The very last slide of this is the congratulations slide. This is actually going to trigger the system now to mark this project complete. So I want to go back to Maria. Maria, does that help answer the question that you put into the chat earlier?
Do you have to put that evaluation by our
From your speech evaluator?
Toastmaster in computer? How to do it?
No, you don't. You can, but that doesn't actually trigger the system to say that this is complete and you get credit for it. I know some Toastmasters that have just stacks of papers on their desk, and they've got files and they've got paper evaluations, and they look through them periodically. Some of them have them in folders per year, and they have other more techie Toastmasters that actually use the function in Pathways where you have your own cloud storage of documents. However you want to keep your evaluations or not keep them is completely up to you.
But I thought that after you submit, they say the VPE or president or secretary will approve it. So I thought there's a place you submit and then get approved.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually show you the back end of that next. So stay tuned for that. There's nothing that you actually physically have to give to your VPE for them to submit the approval. Yep.
I'm listening.
Evaluations, or you can throw out your evaluations. It's all documented in this online platform. So cuts down on the paperwork, especially since we're still like in virtual COVID world. My personal club, I have a member from Brazil who's on the call with us tonight. We have another member who lives in Pennsylvania, even though we're based in Florida. So we don't physically exchange papers between us because we've never seen
I thought it's on the web. Like we have to upload some of those things. Like
you can upload it if you like, but that doesn't actually hinder you from getting the credit for that project. It's optional.
Okay, I'm listening.
I keep mine online. I like to post them in Basecamp, so I have them, but that's not a requirement.
Could you show us how to keep them online?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I want to say one more thing about completing things before I show you the document storage. Once every single one of these projects is marked as complete, there's a few different markers that you'll know that that project is complete? Tell me how you know based on my screen. How do you know that this project is complete?
Your check and then they're dark.
Yep, there is a check mark right next to the project. And what was the other one, Mario?
They're blue, dark. To the left.
The check mark is blue?
Yes.
Yes.
And then also in level 1 is checked.
Yes. You see up here? Over here where it says level 1 on the left navigation, there's a check mark over there. It means the whole level is done. There's some other markers in here too. Edward said 100. Yep, it says 100% right here where it says engaging humor or whatever the name of your path is, level 100%. It also says completed 4, minimum 4, total items 4.
And then it says level 1 completion, view certificate.
That's it. So ultimately what's going to happen is once you have these 3, remember we said there's 3 projects in here. Once all 3 are done, you're going to click on launch down here. This is going to trigger with your actions to signal this to the system that you have completed everything in that level. And that is the next step that is going to send that signal to your Basecamp manager saying, my whole level is completed. So do we get credit for a project or for a level? Anybody remember?
Level.
For the whole level. There you go, Mario. The whole level is where my club gets credit. Individual projects, I'm making progress. I'm working through the levels, but it's once the whole level is completed that my club now gets credit. Any questions on that before we move on to document storage? Anybody have anything they want to add or comment on?
I have a question.
Please.
At what point would you ask the question, how do you go back and review a project directions if you have gone to level 2 maybe, or level 3? How do you get back?
You want to go back and revisit what you already went through?
Yes.
Oh,
For
definitely.
example, if I have a research project, what I want to do is go back wherever research was and read the directions for research.
That's a great
This
question.
might not be the proper time to ask that.
No, it's a great question. This whole system is open for navigation. So we're looking at level 1 right now, but I could jump over to level 4. I can jump back to level 2. I can jump back to level 1. So Mario's situation is if he has a research project like in real life that he wants to work through, you can come back and you can visit any of these projects again, even if the status is showing as completed. All you have to do is click on launch and it's going to open that e-learning module for you again. And you can work through it all over again.
But if I don't see it, I can go back to level 1 and just kind of navigate through it until I find it.
You could. If you purchased a path after October of 2021, this research and presenting isn't in level 1 anymore. They moved it.
Really?
Yeah. But I am free to go through this navigation and go backwards and forwards. I love your evaluation link in here, which is like second to the bottom in that navigation, because it gives me all of the worksheets, gives me the evaluation that I want to give to my speech evaluator. It gives me everything from the project.
What is
that
the benefit of archives? can we archive the
There's-
levels once we finish?
There's really no need to archive the level. There's no need to archive any of this actually at all. If you've completed your entire path, then maybe you want to archive it. It's not something that I recommend though.
What is
Yeah.
the benefit of archives? Is there any?
The benefit of archive is I use this system in my work, and I'm a trainer, I'm an instructional designer, I'm always dealing with courses online. So if we have a catalog of like thousands of courses that I personally have taken,
Yes.
then I might want to archive it just because there's just too much there to look at. If I've been an employee since 2010, I don't necessarily need to go back and revisit all of that stuff. And just like the list keeps growing longer and longer, but that's not really an issue for us in Toastmasters.
That is the way you
So
do it.
this system is also built for corporations and their learning for their employees.
Thank you.
Certainly. So to get back to home, let's talk about document storage. To get back to home, we're going to click on the Toastmasters Pathways logo up at the top left. That's always going to bring you back to the home page of Pathways, also known as, what did we say the home page is called? Yeah, Martha said it. She's on mute, but I saw her mouth it. It's Basecamp. Good job. All right, back at home camp or Basecamp, home on the ranch. If we scroll down just a little bit, there's this little section here called My Documents. This is your own personal cloud storage. You hear people all the time, it's in the cloud, it's in the cloud. Guess what? You get a cloud. How cool is that? If you've never had a cloud before, this is the time. So this is just for you. This is not a document exchange where you can transfer a file from one Toastmaster to the other. This is your personal document storage that no one has access to. That's one of the other benefits of Pathways, is that I can put my stuff in here and I can store whatever it is I want here. You can put Zoom recordings in here. It'll do video files. It will do audio files. It will do PDFs. It will do lots of different types of files. I called Toastmasters International this past week and asked them, is there a limit? Because I've put a ton of stuff in there. And they said, not that we know of. So if you want to record your speech and actually store it in your documents, it's kind of a cool way to do it. And if you log into toastmasters.org from anywhere in the world, your computer, your tablet, wherever, you have access to all of these things. So let's crack it open and take a look. They have pre-made folders in here for you. Remember how we talked about the path is the big curriculum, the level is the degree of difficulty, and then you've got projects within the level. They have levels 1 through 5 as a folder for you. And they also have a folder just called My Documents. So me personally, I have gone through, I completed 2 paths and I have 2 more that I'm working through. So that's a total of 4 icebreaker speeches. So in my level 1, I have 4 icebreaker evaluations that I have kept from my speech evaluators. In my documents, I worked on my DTM through Pathways. I put a lot of my project documents into the My Documents folder because it's not really level 5. It's a completely different entity altogether. So I put a lot of my files in there. So it was my goals, my objectives, my team, our progress chart, and all kinds of things in there. So you can click on any one of these folders. There's a blue button on the top left that says Add File. as I add the file. You can drag and drop files, or you can click the select a file to browse wherever it's stored on your device. And like I said, it can be a PDF, it can be an MP3, it can be an MP4, it could be video files, audio files, spreadsheets, all kinds of things. Any comments, questions about the documents section?
So there's no need for VPE or president, anyone to prove what you have accomplished?
They do approve it, but they don't have access to your files.
Where do they approve it?
That's a great question. Let's go take a look. When you are in the curriculum and you've finished a level, then the VPE and the president and the secretary, they're all going to get a message saying, you have a member that completed a level. And then they're going to go in and they're going to approve it. So you want to see the back end of it?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to our profile. This time I'm going to log into Pathways as a Basecamp manager. Tina is VPE of this particular club. Do we have any approvals that you know of? No? Okay. I'll just show you the back end anyway so you can see it.
Yes, no.
Is that a yes or is that a no? No. Okay.
No, Rachel.
Copy that. So this is Basecamp for managers. This is the back end of where they're going to be approving things. So does your VPE approve projects or levels?
I guess it's level.
Level. So you typically are going to have 3 or 4 projects in each level. Once you complete all the projects, then they will get a message that you completed a level. So this blue box over here that says pending request, this is where they're going to go. Once they get that notification saying, Maria just completed a level, they're going to click on that blue box. They're going to see your name under this column that says requested by. I don't have anything to show over here, but under options, there's going to be a green check mark. Green means go, or it's going to be a red X, in which case they're rejecting your approval. So this is what they're going to see. I don't have anything in my club. Nobody's done anything. Tina's an amazing VPE and she's gone through and she's done all the approvals that need to happen. So I have nothing to display for you this evening, but this is the back end for Basecamp managers.
So I didn't see a place the member submitted their completion of a level. The only place I heard from your speech is when you finish, you do a pre and a post test.
Correct.
That's the only place to say I finished. Is that correct?
Well, there's more to it though. So you do the pre-test and the post-test, which looks like this.
Yes.
Looks like this. And then once you click all the way over to congratulations, it's going to show that the project is completed. But you have that extra step to complete the level. And it looks just like a project underneath it. I can go back to that too.
Oh, the number 4. I remember the number 4.
Yep.
So when we finish at number 4, it triggered the submit of my completion to the Basecamp manager.
That's right. That's right. And it will say something like pending approval. And that way, you know, once it says pending approval, that your VPE has now been notified that you finished a level.
Can we go back to see the number 4? You show us from the beginning.
Sure.
Yeah, you told us to count how many projects. This is the
Well,
number.
every, no, it's a great question. Every level is going to have a different number of projects.
Yeah, but the one you just show us,
Yeah.
like
let me show you again.
evaluation or some humor things.
Yeah, it's a little back and forth simply because me logging in as a Basecamp manager is going to give me a different view than if I'm logged in.
Yeah.
So let me log back in as a member so we can take a look at that. That
Okay,
level.
that's not there. I don't have to. So just finish the number 4. It will trigger that one.
Yes, I think I have one in here. Let me see. No, I don't have those done yet.
So if we get the level completion, then that will trigger.
Yeah, this status, it might be in my other path. Let me grab my other path because I think I've got one in here. Tina, do you remember if it was level 4 or 5 or something? One of the ones
I think it's a humor speech, level 1.
And yes, Edward, you're right. You can skip levels, but you won't get credit for them unless you go in order. So here's my level 4. You can see that this one is completed. My elective projects, which is several to choose from, that one is also completed. This one down here, it says status completion approval denied. And this is something Tina and I were working on. But if it said pending approval, you know that you did your part to notify the VPE that you completed a level. If it says activate on this blue button, then they haven't been notified. They have to be notified. So this one, I don't have this blue button down here because I'm not eligible to do it yet. I still have 2 projects in this level that haven't even been activated and completed yet. So once all of those projects are completed, this little completion project down at the bottom, it's always going to have that same icon and look. The blue button will then appear. So that's the first part of signaling to the VPE that you're done. So you'll click activate and you'll go through those motions. And once the status says pending approval, then you know that it's in the VPE's bucket to do now.
May I
Question
interject,
regarding-
Rachel?
Daron has a question. Go ahead, Daron.
What happens if they don't, isn't there a certain period of time that they have to approve it? And what happens if they don't approve it in that period of time?
To my knowledge, it just sits there until it's approved.
I thought that if you get an email saying it needs to be approved and you don't approve it, that they have to relaunch it or it goes away. You sure it stays there until?
I can address that, Rachel.
Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
Oh, good.
No, I'll get an email with your request. But sometimes because we get so many emails, I may overlook it or not see it. So after about a week, you should send me an email. Hey, I sent you my pending request for my level. Could you go in and approve it? But otherwise, Daron, it will just sit there until I go into Basecamp Manager to see, okay, who's done something.
Oh,
Make sure that I have approved people's pending verifications. I try to do that once a week because I'm the Vice President of Education of 3 clubs.
Right.
So I try to pick a time where I go in once a week to see, because I may have overlooked it.
Okay, so that means that even if you overlooked it or you deleted it, it doesn't matter. You can go into that as Basecamp manager. You can go into approving pending request, and it'll still be there until you actually say yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm showing right now a sample letter of what we would receive as Basecamp managers. It just says action needed. Member submitted a completion request. So your president, vice president of education, and your secretary will receive this. And it says who the member is, what did they submit for approval, the level and the path name. And it also has a timestamp of like, well, what was the date and time that they submitted it. But there's no expiration date listed on here saying you've got 30 days or you got 30 minutes or anything like that. It's whenever they get in there to do it.
Question regarding approval.
Sure.
Can you approve through Club Central rather than Basecamp?
So that's a great question. So you have to approve it in both places. So for Basecamp managers, you would approve it in Basecamp manager side of Pathways first. I didn't have one to show you, but you would click on the green check mark. And once you've done that, you come into Leadership Central, Club Central. And this is the same way that we've always submitted education awards. And then we come to this little section here under Leadership Central, Club Central, Submit Education Awards. For those of you who are not Basecamp managers, you can shut me out. Go get a drink or, whatever. Take your dog out or something. These are my members. So let's just say that I have, one particular person. I'm going to select the person that I just approved over in Basecamp and Pathways. And then I'm going to grab one of these things right here. And I'll click on review award submission. And that's going to take me through the motions of approving it in Club Central. It's kind of like if you're going to set off a missile and you have two keys that have to be turned at the same time. You need to have both of those things approved in order for your club to receive credit for that level completion. They do have to be done in order. So was it this one over here? So for me personally, I have completed level 1, and then I went and completed level 4, and then I went over and completed level 2. So my club can only get credit for me in sequential order, even though to Edward's point, in Basecamp, I can actually jump around and do all the projects in any order I want. I recommend for new people, you actually go in order. But to actually get credit for it, when I submit a level 1, we can get credit for the level 1. But if I submit level 4 next, my club can't get credit for that level 4. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that sequential order.
Will they get credit if you just say level 1 and level 4, and then you finish 2 and 3, then does 4 automatically get credited then?
It'll show up still in Basecamp manager side for approvals. It just won't show up over here, over in Club Central. It'll show them in sequential order in Club Central. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
So let me say it a different way. In Basecamp, as Basecamp managers, you can approve those levels anytime you want, even if they're out of order. But the second step, when you come over to Club Central, Leadership Central, Club Central, it's not going to allow you to approve your level 4 if it hasn't already seen your level 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, I got it.
It won't even show up over in Club Central yet. Tina and I did some experimenting to see, is there a way to trip the system, and there isn't.
Regarding not responding
Mhm.
within ample time, want the educational program remind you for a few times continuously that an award is pending?
It only sends you an email one time.
One time.
Yep. So if you're someone who tracks your emails, like you flag them or you label them in a certain way, or you put them into a specific folder, you can keep track of some of those out of order ones that still need to be approved. Or if you have a designated day of the week or day of the month that you do your Toastmasters admin kind of work, you can file them all in a specific place. Some people use a spreadsheet as a tracker, whatever works for you. And this way, when you're ready, you can go in and just approve them, but you're only going to get that one notification.
Or you could probably do like Tina said she does. She goes in once a week to see if she has any pending approvals, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. I have a
Pending requests.
Yep. There
Okay.
you go. I have a team of folks that were working on something for the conference, and I just spoke with her yesterday, and I said, how often do you want this report that I have to send to you? And she said, Tuesday is my Toastmasters day, so send it to me on Tuesday. So I was like, okay, she's got a system. It's cool. So every time you come into Basecamp as a manager and you click on the pending requests, you might have a whole list, you might just have one, you might have none, but it would behoove you to pop in there periodically and make sure. Sometimes you miss emails, and make sure that you're on track with all of that. We have gone over time by about 5 minutes. If you want to stay on longer, I'm happy to answer questions. I am here to serve you as the district pathways chair, and that is what I do. One thing I promised you at the beginning was my contact information. So I am going to put that into the chat right now. You can, this phone number, you can call me or you can text me. I'm good with either. You can WhatsApp me either. And here's also my email. I'm pretty responsive to all of those channels, so please feel free. You are free to go. I'm so sorry I've kept you over now by 5 minutes. If you'd like to stay and ask additional questions, I am here for it.